Just while Angela's getting that there, but for the students in the room, a question at the end to think about, because it'd be good to have a little bit of a discussion. I know we're under a bit of pressure, but I think some of the things we're interested in is what your experience has been going through the universities or college systems, especially in terms of the industry engagement and careers coming out at the end. So it'd be interesting to get some of your views on that and what can be improved on that. So that's the topic there I've got. And it's really talking as much about the graduate end of it, but the whole education system is important. So I've got three messages there that are going to come out of this. And first of all, we are seeing an increase in tertiary enrolments in agriculture course. That's occurring. Whether it's going to be sustained is something we have to take note of. Investing in the industry education is looking right across a strategy that has to be implemented right across. It's got to be quite a detailed one and well implemented, and we've been hearing a little bit about that. And the other thing is to identify that education is a continuum. So one of the things that the Australian Council of Deans of Agriculture identified, and the Pratley report, was if you don't pick up a student in primary school and create an interest in agriculture, that's a very important part. If you haven't created that interest, then it just gets harder and harder to get them into agriculture. And if you haven't got them really engaged by about year 10, the chances of those people staying in ag is very limited. So some really critical things there. So just a little bit about the career harvesting, because this is an important milestone. So from about 2000 on, the deans of each of the agriculture faculties and employers were complaining about the number of graduates coming out, that they could see there were falling numbers. Employers were screaming out for graduates, and they just weren't coming through the system. So the deans formed their council in 2007, and they went to the then government and said, look, we've got a problem with student numbers, and the number of jobs out there are increasing. And the minister at the time said, that's rubbish. You've got way too many students and you haven't got the jobs for them. And it was a really interesting exercise, because what happened, the government went to the universities to get their information, and the universities just gave them some lump numbers. And what they had done is put a lot of environmental students and others in with the production agriculture people and the other agriculture courses. So the deans then set up their career harvest then, which was the whole idea of that was to collect some good data. And they were able to go, but there was a change in government, they were able to go to the new government and said, look, these are the real numbers. And it's just a really important exercise in making sure your data is right. Don't assume things, just make sure you always look at that data and see what's happening. So the deans, with their career harvest, wanted to have a portal where anybody who's looking to go choose agriculture as a course, or looking around seeing, not sure what they want to do at the end of year 12, there was a portal that they could go to that brought all the universities that taught ag together. And then in 2012, Red Handed, which is a communications company heavily involved with agriculture, and Rimfire, which is probably one of the biggest of the employment agencies in agriculture, got together and said, look, we want to help you move this along, and that's how our incorporated body, Career Harvest, came about. So it's pretty clear that our jobs that we require in our sector are right across the board. So don't people think that it's just at the graduate end. We know we need people right across the whole board, and we've heard about that today, about the different jobs. But I'm really looking more at the professional end in this talk. But some of the things that have worked against us have been the perceptions. And you know, I think Barb and Ralph and others in this room who are in agriculture, if that's what our career was about, we wouldn't be in there. And the truth is that it's a much more exciting career, and the realities, as we saw it down there in the opening sessions this morning, you know, it's a pretty exciting sector. And Career Harvest was able to identify 243 vocations that an agriculture degree would give you. So you've got one of the broadest degrees. It sits there with engineering as probably one of the broadest degrees that you can have. the thing is, the future is pretty exciting. It's, where are we going to be in 2030? It's just amazing how much we've moved along, but it's certainly not about lumping bags of wheat and digging holes and all those sorts of things. It's we have to get out there and sell to the community that agriculture is probably one of the most sophisticated parts. Just that it needs to work on that image. So some of the data that we've got, and this comes from the Australian Council of Deans of Agriculture and stuff that Career Harvest has got. So we're looking around about 3,000 odd jobs that have been identified as advertised. So Rimfire used to get those from newspapers and the internet. They're now just moving to the internet because that's where most of the jobs are. Newspapers don't have many of those jobs. But again, this is all at the professional level. This is not the stuff that you'd get out of the Narrabri Courier where it might be about farm work. This is, again, at the professional, where these students are headed. But the number of students coming out at the moment is about 600 that's graduating out of those. I think there's 15 universities that do agriculture right today. The actual number for that 3,000, I talked to Rimfire a couple of days ago, this year it's looking like about 3,120 positions that are out there. And they do allow for duplication. They've got a methodology, and it's very similar to what ANZ does when they look at their job growth. So this has been the trend in graduate completions, and you can see it's been on a pretty downhill slope until just recently. We've probably hit a bit of a bottom there, but it's been going down quite dramatically, and that's what the universities were, the Australian Council of Deans were reacting to. But this is just graduate completion, so this is not the total enrolment. This is just people coming out. So even though we're seeing enrolments increasing right today, it's going to take 3 or 4 years before those numbers will start to show. But we are increasing, but it's from a low base. And that's just showing it broken down a little bit. You can see the agriculture there, which is really the agronomy, soil science, entomology, those sorts of things, by far the biggest number of students coming out. But you can see that steep decline, and of course for the cotton industry, that's a worry. These are the number of jobs that have been advertised. Again, this data coming from Rimfire. The brown line there showing the non-graduate jobs, that's more the farm, just the labouring work, the supervisors, that sort of thing. But it's that red line at the bottom is the trend in the graduate jobs. But it has, we believe now, sort of bottomed out. Again, I said around that 3,120 right today. So some data now is, in 2001 there were 4,000 students enrolled in agriculture courses across Australia. So enrolled means you add those in first year, second year, third year and fourth year together. It's total enrolments. That dropped down to 1,500 in 2012, and where we're seeing today it's around that 2,500. And Jim Pratley tells me you can expect an attrition of at least 15% that'll fall out during the courses. And we know some years have much bigger ones than others. So that 2,500 gets closer to 2,000 total enrolments, and hopefully we can see that trend moving up. So the question was put to me is how do we capitalise on that? And that's really an issue for discussion. But whatever the industry does, it has to come in there at a very early stage. And you see Trudy there, who does a lot of work in that school area, and you really have to get there and engage them early, don't you, Trudy? So, that's really important, and then bring them along right through the whole continuum, and the industry's part of that continuum as well. So that's the big picture of it. But the questions I've had in terms of an industry, cotton can't do it by itself, and we did hear some things about dairy and some others, but I can tell you, and it's not blowing the trumpet for any reason, they don't pay me to do this, but cotton is way out in front. Every time you go to a conference or whatever, the cotton people, especially in the education sector, have done an outstanding job. It's just way ahead. But we can't do it ourselves because we're obviously not going to employ 600 graduates in cotton every year. But so right across the spectrum, we need all the industries working together. And that could be at the RDC levels. I still think we tend to work in silos in lots of ways, and some of these groups just need to get together and have an education strategy that goes right across a lot of industries. We've got to take the industry to the institutions. This is really important. I think we've let that lapse in many industries. And horticulture in particular, horticulture has really lost the plot on a lot of things. And even though we saw down there that horticulture is supposed to be one of our biggest industries in the future, I can tell you they're struggling on the education thing because they don't have a strategy and they're not funding like our industry is doing. So this is really important. So just some of the suggestions to move forward. How can the industry work in with the universities and the TAFE colleges that are producing graduates? And there's a few things there. One, the site visits, getting people into the businesses, whether it's on the farm or whether it's in the processing works, in the marketing, all those sorts of things. We need to spend that time getting those people interested in seeing what's happening. Going to the schools and universities ourselves as an industry is really important. Work and holiday experience, that's one of the biggest ways I know in our company in Oscott how we've picked up a lot of people. They've come and do that holiday work. It used to be a bit easier when we had a lot of bug checkers, and a lot of those people eventually became agronomists and other employees. The internships and things are really important, engaging these people. Doing project work, but I also think there's scholarships and prizes, because talking to some graduates from other universities, one of the things that they were worried about, okay, we're enrolling in these courses, but does the industry really value us? And is there going to be a job coming out at the end? That was the sort of questions they posed coming in. So we need to be working with those people and mentoring with them and helping them come along and showing that there is a pretty good future there. That's really important. A few other things, R&D is a great way to engage people, and obviously the cotton industry has a strong ethic in research, and so we do a lot of project work and research where we bring people into our industry, and hopefully they'll stay there, but we need to keep that going and moving forward. And the employment, the competitive packages, I was asked a question before the session started about what are the starting salaries and those sorts of things. And the industry has to be competitive. We do need the best and brightest, and the only way we're going to do that is be competitive. And it's not just all about the cash; it's the whole package that you put together. And so that's up to the industry as a whole to do that. Here, supporting the champions, you can see a few there, and you can see Trudy paid me the most to put a photo on that because she's the biggest. But it really is about the vision and drive that these people have, and we really need to get out and support those people in this, because, as I said, I look at horticulture and I think it's falling apart in lots of ways. They've come to Career Harvest and said, look, we need to get some education programs going, but it's such a confused industry because it's got about 43 sub-industries. They're just not aligned, and so what they need is some champion to get the whole group together and sort of move forward. Very important. And that's it, Barb. So look to the stars of the future.